Thomas had tumbled down the slope and crashed through the wall. No one was hurt, but his front was badly bent. They telephoned the Fat Controller. Jinty and Pug were up at the top. They were meant to look after the branch line while Thomas was in England. Pug looked down worried, but Jinty couldn't stop laughing. Does that happen every time you race, Thomas? Jinty called down. God, admit, you're pretty consistent then. Oh, come on, don't say that. It was an accident, said Pug. Sure, because that's how he has a race. I wonder if he works the same, he quipped. Stepney puffed up. He had been called to help as well. He was surprised at what he was seeing. I leave for 5 minutes to take some trucks down the line, and this is what I come back to? Thomas gave us a little demonstration for his drag racing career. I don't know if he'll properly qualify, though. Pug snickered. Okay, that's kind of funny. You know, I bet the books will have a field day with this. You're right, said Jinty. The next morning, the engines were waiting for their cue to leave. Thomas hadn't arrived, and it was nearing 8. The Fat Controller was talking with the engines before their departure. Now, you two are sure that you don't want to be taken on flatbeds. We can very much provide you one, said the Fat Controller to Toby and Percy. Don't worry, sir, said Toby. Yes, sir. I like a good run for my wheels, agreed Percy. Very well, if that's what you sure wish, he settled. And you're sure about riding in me, sir? Henrietta asked nervously. I'll fit you up as my private coach. I wouldn't have dreamed of leaving you behind or picking any other, Henrietta. And I don't share that because Toby's here, he told her proudly. Henrietta felt most flattered and grand. Where is that Thomas? 1 minute more or we shall go without him, the Fat Controller bellowed. The all-too-familiar whistle rang through the air. There, rounding the bend, Thomas came panting into the station, with Annie and Clarabelle chittering behind him. Thomas, I'm most displeased with you. You nearly upset my arrangements, said the Fat Controller sternly. You're lucky we have great contractors on our island. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir, said Thomas abashed. With the blow of the guard's whistle, the cavalcade of engines was off. Look out, England! Here we come! We'll keep your branch line all tidy, proclaimed Stepney over the dissonance of whistles. Safe travels, called Pug. And stay on the rails at that, finished Jinty. Stepney was having a wonderful time taking his trains down the branch. It felt nice to have a change of scenery. The wind whistled past as he coasted down the line with his coaches. I keep forgetting how lovely these smaller areas are compared to the island, and that's saying something, said Stepney calmly, to no one in particular. I've missed this line. The coaches twittered to themselves. Oh, isn't he just a darling, said one. True, a charm, said another. Stepney blushed, but pretended not to hear. He had arrived at Elsbridge with his passengers. Pug was assigned shunting in the yard. "How's it going over there?" Stepney called over. "Pretty well. I should expect much from this lot," Pug confided. "It was either more or less of a workload, but in terms of work rate, it's pretty similar." "Work is work," Stepney noted. Boko had just arrived at the goods train from Edward's branch line. "I wish you two's enthusiasm can inspire Edward's substitute," he declared sternly. "If I have to hear more of his complaints for an hour, honestly, sincerely, I'll blow a fuse." You stuck with Morris. You know him?" "Yeah, his Glaswegian is tough. I know." "You don't say." Boko was unimpressed. "That's maybe the nicest way of putting it." "May I ask about this Morris lad?" Stepney interjected. "What does he complain about?" "Oh, just the same as any stuck-up tender engine. Having goods trains instead of regular passengers." That sounds all too familiar. Like something only a Sodor engine would say. "Well, that's because he was, a long time ago," replied Pug. "Really?" "No wonder the Fat Controller setting him away then," Boko voiced in his annoyance. "All right, Boko," reassured Stepney. "Don't you blow a fuse here, or else it might be your engine." Pug laughed, and Boko joined suit. Then, a big green tender engine coming tender first clattered by with a goods train. Pug was surprised, and a little afraid. "You know, if I had to deal with Morris for a week," said Jinty in the sheds that night, "I think I'd blow something too." Pug had to agree. Any time I shunt and he's nearby, or even if he's trying to make conversation with me, it's always out of sight, out of mind. Stepney didn't know Morris like Jinty and Pug did, but he could see where they came from and wanted to join in. "It's unfortunate, isn't it? Wasting all your energy complaining rather than just doing your work. And besides, he should be lucky to be working on such a lovely line as Edward's," Stepney asserted. "He should be lucky in the fact that he was invited back to Sodor," said Pug. "Ah, that is true. That is true." "And now he's just become a normal Brit again. Dry and obnoxious," said Jinty. Pug snickered. "You and your sarcasm, Jint." Stepney couldn't help but chuckle too, but there was a deep part of him that felt concerned. The next day, Jinty and Pug were sent to the quarry to help Mavis. Trucks of stone were scattered across the whole yard. The three engines stared at the confusion. Mavis felt embarrassed having the yard be in such a state. "It is a disaster, I know." "Well, we've seen worse," said Pug. "We've seen other engines do worse," added Jinty. He puffed over to a long line of trucks and gave them a hard bump. Even while pressing on, he struggled to hold his speed. "That's a long line, Jinty. Do you need help?" "No, that's quite all right." "Are you sure?" "I got it." Mavis subsided. "All right then, just wanting to help." "He's like that when he works. Just wants it done and done independently. Where should I start?" Mavis and the tank engines worked hard to get the yard in a firm shape. Before they knew it, it was done and over with. Moreover, all three of them had worked equally as hard as the other. "Here you are, boys," said Mavis, hauling a line of cars over. "I'm afraid you've got one more job to do for us." "Well, that's all right. You made it a lot more engaging, Mavis," Pug said cheerfully. Mavis smiled, glad she could help. quarry manager came walking up to them. "You two are to take these trucks of stone to Wellsworth. I suggest taking 2 right ones so you don't have to take a turntable." "Yes, sir." "Right. Did you understand a word he said?" "All I heard was Wellsworth." "Now we have to deal with Morris," said Pug. "Oh, that's not as bad as old Ed," replied Jinty. "I've heard his complaints and insults are just plain cruel. How ironic is it that he also used to work on Sodor? I guess it's tradition then." Mavis said nothing. Pug looked over forgivingly. "He can get pretty hard with his humour. Don't mind it though." "That's not the problem, dear," she said. As the two travelled across the branch, Pug thought about what Mavis had meant. Who was that?" Pug said, ruffled. "Oh, that was old Ed," said Jinty. He noticed Pug's nervous look. "Quite a sight he is, eh? I bet his language falls parallel to that. I heard he was even more than Morris when he worked there." "Well, I wouldn't want to be in the middle of it to find out," Pug proclaimed. Later on, the 2 tank engines arrived at Edward Station. Waiting there for their inevitable meeting was Morris, and he was complaining to no end, much to Boco's irritation. "I mean, what do I get when I shunt trucks endlessly on this line? I only go up and down this branch, I don't go to a city. I get clanked out branch line coaches rather than bogey ones. And on top of that, I have to run goods like some dirty commoner when I was a guaranteed connection." "And yet you still pull goods in England, Morris," said Pug. "Oh, aye. Well, I'll only be promoted to express engine like I was here. I had a name here." "You have a name regardless, Morris." "That's not the point! The fat director and his fat end sent me away, all because I was just telling Edward the truth, and I would just be left. But now I'm his replacement. Little Eddie now has a branch line of his own. Little Eddie, who would have quit his weeping. Little Eddie, who didn't even have the energy to get out of the shed. Little Eddie, who has more patience and ability to pull his weight than you ever will have," said Boco, finally losing his patience. "And now I have to deal with this. And even then, it's being overshadowed by a tank engine. An express engine gets less attention because of a tank engine that shows a little charm," said Morris. Pug didn't feel like continuing the conversation for the sake of Boco's engine, but a little crackle in Jinty's boiler made it so he couldn't help but, in a parallel sense, relate. That night in the sheds, Stepney and Pug were deep in conversation. "I swear," Pug started, "I don't blame Boco at all. Just goes on and on about being a pride of the line as if there aren't other express engines in the first place." "And it was all in a Scottish accent, eh?" wondered Stepney. "Oh, yeah. All I know for a fact is that he's just miserable. And I do feel sorry for him, but at the same time, I really can't." "I don't blame you," confided Stepney. "If he always acts miserable like that, that's most likely how he'll turn up to be. Besides, there's more of a contribution to be had than just passengers anyhow. That doesn't just go for Sodor." Jinty hadn't said anything the entire time. He was still thinking about what Morris had said, especially about Thomas. Stepney noticed how quiet he was, unusually so. "You haven't said anything at all, Jint. When you care to bring your input into the matter," said Stepney. "Well, that's because I have nothing to say," he barked, and with that, he went to sleep, leaving Stepney surprised. Pug, too. "He always has something to say," said the saddle tank engine. The next day, he did say something, and he said it all to Mavis at the quarry. Now, I'm not exactly fond of motors, and I'm pretty sure that they can annoy anything that moves, but I think that his logic is in the right place, Jinty determined. What? What on Sodor are you talking about? Said Mavis. Think of it, maybe. Thomas gets into an accident, and the author of the books makes a story off of it. He gets recognised for having a mishap. But if I get into an accident in England, I'll just cause confusion, and nothing but. Whatever recognition that gives me, I don't get rewarded. I get shamed. But you haven't had that accident yet, much less any accident, have you? You know, it's all just in theory, he said, although fecklessly. He started and struggled with his line of trucks. Are you sure you don't need help? She called out to him. I'm fine. I mean, really, what do I have to do to get some respect for these hoppers? I try and be nice to them, and all I get back is just bumping curses and crudeness. I don't see how the twins and Oliver can deal with them. Well, it takes time, dear. Trust me, I know what those hoppers are capable of, eased Stepney. Oi, Step, did you see that engine go by? Said Jinty. Oh, you haven't met Murdoch. He's quite an impressive sight, eh? I counted 10 driving wheels on him. That engine, Henry, doesn't have anything on that. Stepney was about to reply when a whistle sounded in the distance. Oh, that must be Bernard with the express. Oh, Wiki! Wiki! Called out Jinty with his whistle blowing over the engine storming through. Wick! I know you're a replacement for the big blue one, but you gotta stay away from London, you know. Shove off, Jinty! Hey, you gotta stay on the rails while you're at it. Jinty snickered to himself. This made Stepney finally decide to engage with the tank engine. Do you know about him? When he was sent here all those years ago to pull passengers from England, he derailed that Vickers when he was trying to send the train home. Oh, Wiki, what a figure. The tank engine cackled. I do hope that you do not have these beliefs for every engine that has been given some recognition. You do realize they're their own engine, right? Their own self. I don't mean anything to you, Step. Never mind. That's not the point. I'm honestly not concerned about what your thoughts are about me, and although it's not an immediate concern, I do find it worrying the thoughts you have about other engines. It's cynical, Jinty. It's all in humour, Step. Is it? Is it coming from somewhere humorous? I understand dry humour, but I don't think that the way you use it is right. What are you talking about? I'm talking about you. Something doesn't sit right with me with you when you're talking about the engines. What right have you to be concerned? You're in the same league as him, yeah? You get in an accident, he gets in an accident, and he gets a book written, but I'll do it, and I'm not good at my job. What sense does that make? He may be a celebrity, but Thomas is still a worker. Always has been. Yes, he may boast about his branch line, but that's because he's proud of it. He's proud that he has a place to call his own, proud that he has earned it, proud that others can enjoy it. I feel the same about my bluebell. Surely, there's something you can appreciate. I've seen it, gents. You're a great worker. You know that's real flattering, Step. But I've got the mail train to take. And with that, Jinty puffed away into the night. Leaving Stepney dissatisfied and sad that he couldn't get to him. Pug puffed in. He had heard almost everything. Sorry about him. I know he's a bit stubborn with his beliefs. Mavis told me about some things he said earlier. I see, but at the same time I really can't side with him, even if he is a mate. Pug, will you answer me this? Why does Jinty always want to work independently? He thinks that if he does it by himself, there's no one to rely on but himself to do the work. In turn, because it's tried and true to him, he thinks it gets the job done quicker. Funny thing, Mavis asked the same thing. You've asked to help him though, I hope? Of course, he's my best mate, but it's not his methods. Well then, if he's not asking for help, you should help him regardless. And are you doing that? No. Oh, then if you aren't helping him, have you told him that he's been doing a good job? No. Oh, Pug, he said firmly. The next day, Jinty had goods to haul to the harbor by the big station. It was a long and heavy train for him, but he had to get it done. Stepney knew, however, that it wouldn't be enough to pull alone. Jinty, that's a long lot, that, the terrier said, concerned. Yeah, as if I didn't know that, he said sternly. I'll have to work doubly hard then. Or you could work at a normal capacity. Double-heading isn't a problem, you know, Stepney conceded. You see the yard, yeah? Wiki will be passing by with the express at junction. I've got a second to lose. You do your job, I'll do mine. Besides, you don't see me rolling down inclines whilst doing it. Jinty. Jinty waited for his signal. And he started with a great heave, but even then the train stayed put. After some straining and sanding, the train pushed forward. You sure you don't need... Tend to your work, Step, he yapped. Watch that soot, Murdoch. I'm a guaranteed connection. Sorry. You know, Wiki, it doesn't hurt to get a little dirty, declared Pug. Right, that's why you're a shunter, Pug, the engine called out as the guard's whistle blew. Tender engines. Oh, hello. On the branch line, Jinty coasted along. The trucks rattled behind him as he began picking up speed. See, if Thomas can get his own 6 wheels to pull this, then I'll be impressed. Jinty's confidence filled him with pride. It wasn't lasting. Oh no, I'm going too fast. Driver, we have to slow down, he called out. I don't know if we can. The trucks are too heavy, his driver called back. He was right. The heavy truck barreled against the tank engine and the train careened down the line. Out of my way, you giant green caterpillar! Stepney had just finished shunting. He knew he had to act. I need to help him. That train is much too heavy for one tank engine. And he raced off down the line. Jinty was still out of control as he rocketed along the tracks. Up ahead was Farquhar, and Daisy was just picking up passengers. A workman saw Jinty coming down the line and diverted him onto the siding. But the line didn't go to any buffers and Jinty only swayed. He yelled out to Daisy, "Look out! Stop!" Daisy was just leaving when she screeched to a halt. Jinty thundered by with the trucks. Everyone was surprised. "Goodness, Jinty, what are you doing?" Stepney raced past. "Oh, don't tell me he's a runaway. We have to slow him down." Couple me up! Couple me up! Bother this slope. Jint! Step? I thought I could handle it. Save your lamenting for later. We need to slow down. What do you think I've been trying to do? That's Wiki. What we do? What do you think? Break! Break! What on earth? Jinty, you idiot! The tender engine roared back. Jinty was ashamed, but relieved. He was out of breath. Stepney was too. "Is everything all right?" called an unfamiliar voice. It was old Abe, and alongside him was a concerned Pug. Not exactly," said Jinty, defeated. "We heard the noise from the station. We thought an accident was about to happen." "It almost did," called an exhausted Stepney. "Say, would you like some help?" Old Abe said to Jinty. "Yeah, sorry." "Oh, don't be. I'll be glad to," he said gaily. "Yeah, same here," said Pug. The guard's whistle blew, and the cavalcade started off effortlessly. Hang on, said Jinty. How'd you get all there with all the engines to be lost here? How hard did you try? I didn't try at all, said Pug. But I thought you were loaded with insults. Well, I was, for sure. Pug thought I'd say the same too. You're all dead, said Pug, lost for words. I see my legacy's continued, said the tender engine. Please, call me Abraham. How about you? What's your name? Pug. Nice to meet you, Pug. Don't be all nervous just because of rumours. You're face to face with me now. So you're not going to insult me? No, not now. Not anymore. Do remember, I got sent away because of how horrible I was. And it's a good thing the Fat Director did that, because if not, the island would not be what it is today. But could you imagine me and my blonde and red pulling passengers across the island, sneering at the shunters? That's only scratching the surface. Well, I'm sure you miss it, yeah? Sure I miss it, but not because I got to pull coaches or I was a Sodor engine. It's because of these engines. I've worked with such great engines. Gordon could pull coaches unlike anyone I've worked with, brisk and efficient. And I regret what I said to Henry. It wasn't his fault, and I heard about his rebuild. And I've worked with engines of the same build as him. You'd never see such ambition from anyone else. And what about Edward? I regret that too. But now he has his own line, and he still works like he did when I was here all those years ago. And then little Thomas. He was a station pilot, and now he has his own branch line, his own coaches, his own book series. Yes! And I bet he's beyond proud of that. And I got sent away in disgrace, and I couldn't be more thankful. Because I got to go beyond Sodor. I got to meet so many great engines in England, whose working personalities are so balanced out. I got to meet my brothers. I got to have this lovely livery, and even though Great Central has faded away, I'm still here. And I'll fade away too, eventually. My time is limited. It's bound to happen. That doesn't discourage me, though. It made me realize that if I can appreciate what others are doing, then surely someone who can appreciate what I'm doing. And that is what keeps me going. I wish I could convince Jinty of that. And that's when he told me about you. I decided that it might be good to help. Jinty couldn't help but feel enlightened, contemplating this all the way to the harbor. The train was delivered just in time, and the four engines couldn't have felt better. Jinty especially. Thanks for helping me, he said sheepishly. We couldn't help it, said Abraham, and he continued. But do know this, Jinty. You're doing a great job. You are, Jint. And it's true. And I'm sorry I haven't told you, commended Pug. Jinty's eyes twinkled, and a little smile went across his face. Thanks. Some days later, the engines were all waiting for the Sodor engine's return. Abraham whistled. Here they come! The engines of England erupted into a chorus of whistles that rang through the air. The Sodor engine saw them all waiting and joined in. The fat controller climbed down from Henrietta, covering his ears. All right, that's enough, he bellowed. To all of you engines who helped us out while we were in England, we wish you good tidings on your way back home. Yeah, but maybe take a flatbed. I wish I'd learned my lesson, said Percy, weary on his wheels. I thought you liked a good run for your wheels, retorted Gordon in jest. Everyone laughed, even Jinty. The Fat Controller walked over to Stepney. I'm sorry for such short notice. I can't thank you enough for coming to help. Absolutely, sir. I'm always happy to come here, he said cheerily. And you and my friends are welcome on the Blue Belt anytime. Thank you, Stepney. The Bat Controller chuckled. Thomas was in front of the brigade, and Jinty offered to talk to him. Oi, Thomas! I gotta say, your branch line's pretty wicked. I'm sorry about the things I said to you while you were at the bottom of the slope. Thomas chuckled. I know they were jokes. Honestly, I bet the thin clergyman had a great time with that incident. I can already imagine that the children will read it. Imagine them watching it, Jinty retorted, and the two laughed. Thomas, do continue working hard on your branch line. I will.